Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sion Rhodes. I have the pleasure of serving as press secretary for Commissioner Lesley Briones here at Harris County Precinct 4. And we are delighted to have you here today as we highlight the amazing work being done to expand legal aid in Harris County as it specifically applies to the eviction crisis. We are also excited to, for the first time, hear from New Houston on their new report about the impact of the post-COVID eviction crisis here in Harris County. So the run of show is as follows. We'll hear from Commissioner Lesley Briones, followed by Commissioner Rodney Ellis, followed by Tal Costas, Executive Director of Harris County Community Services Department, followed by Jay Malone, representing New Economy for Working Houston, followed by Donna Carney with Lone Star Legal Aid, then Jenny Roberts with Neighborhood Defender Service, and we'll hear from a client who has benefited from these services. And then we will hear again from Commissioner Lesley Briones to close before opening for questions. With that, it is my honor to introduce to you Harris County Precinct 4 Commissioner Lesley Briones.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lesley Briones, and I'm deeply grateful to be serving as your Harris County Commissioner for Precinct 4. I'm equally grateful to be joined by my colleague and friend, Commissioner Rodney Ellis of Precinct 1, who has been on the front lines for decades fighting for justice across Texas and across the United States. So thank you for everything you have done and continue to do, Commissioner Ellis. Thank you to Jay Malone, another dear friend and champion in our community and state, who's here today representing the New Economy for Working Houston, Director Tal Costas, who leads the Harris County Community Services Department. Thank you to Jenny Roberts and all of her team at the Neighborhood Defender Services. And I look forward to hearing from Ms. Oliver and Ms. Carney and all of the Lone Star Legal Aid team members. Thank you. And also thank you to President Biden and the Biden administration, because without the ARPA funding, none of this would have been possible that we're discussing today. So I'm so grateful to be here with these partners and so many of our Harris County team members of Precincts 1, Precincts 4, CSD, and beyond. I'm happy to be here not only as your commissioner, but more importantly, as somebody who used to be a public school teacher. And I remember days in the classroom where my students would be falling asleep on their desk because many of them had insecurity with regard to housing and food insecurity and just this confluence of factors that were just interfering with their education. But housing was front and center. If you don't have a safe place to call home and sleep, the next morning, it's a victory that you're there at school. But it was just this challenge that I remember at that age in the classroom thinking, what more can we be doing from a housing standpoint? Fast forward, became a lawyer. Fast forward, became one of your judges at Harris County Civil Court at Law, where we got those 4 courts, the appeals from the 16 JP courts. And these eviction cases were the most difficult and heartbreaking. And I couldn't say it at the time, but I really hated each and every one of them. It was just awful. And what bothered me is I wish these cases had never even been in the court, right? Because we have enough know your rights. We have enough landlords and tenants working together to find a win-win outcome. So we at the court at the time, I partnered with the Houston Volunteer Lawyers Program. So I had pro bono attorneys helping with each of those dockets because to me, it just seemed to add insult to injury that only 2% of our tenants in Harris County have legal representation. So now fast forward, that it's been the adventure of my life to get to join Commissioner's Court and keep building on the great work of Commissioner Ellis and Judge Hidalgo and Commissioner Garcia. And now together we keep that investment going in partnership with Neighborhood Defender Services, Lone Star Legal Aid, and so many of y'all in this room. So Harris County has invested $9 million in ARPA funds for eviction legal aid, which is now in our 16 JP courts. So I thank the leadership, especially of Commissioner Ellis, who has been on the front line. So that is one step. But we know that alone is not going to be enough. And I thank our partners for the 200 individuals they have helped and the hundreds more that they will help. Additionally, we recently got funding to fund an associate judge position at the civil courts at law, where all those appeals go. And the judge that was appointed, Commissioner Ellis and I were at his investiture. Judge Jermaine Thomas, the perspective we have on the bench with Judge Thomas is remarkable. He and his family were evicted since he was a child various times. And so to have that perspective on the bench is a win. To have tenants and landlords getting their cases heard more quickly is a win in partnership with all of you. We also have invested $2.5 million in ARPA funds for immigrant legal services, for legal and wraparound services for indigent defendants and survivors of violence. We also just got a slightly over $500,000 grant from Houston Endowment for a Language Access Office here in Harris County, which will work with the courts and beyond, because we all know that access to justice, it is fundamentally important that in all cases, anyone who needs a translator gets access to one. But this is all helping. We're focusing on the courts. To me, I want to rewind the clock. What we ultimately need is affordable housing that all of our families have access to. And in partnership with so many of you in the room, we are helping to make that happen. So I am very thankful again to President Biden for the ARPA funding. Here in Harris County, we have invested $85 million in affordable single-family housing, $85 million, and $68.5 million in affordable multifamily housing. That is a significant investment. We're making progress, and we know that is not enough. So we will need the ongoing partnership of everyone in this room to not only make housing affordable and equitable and accessible, but make sure that we are always moving justice in Harris County forward with the lens of equity, access, and efficiency. Every child in this community deserves to have a place they can call home every single night. And all of us today will go home to our homes, and we are the blessed ones. We are the privileged ones. And it's up to us to continue that multiplier effect so that Harris County is the most just, the most fair, and the most equitable place in the United States of America. So thank you for your partnership. I know there is some Spanish media here, and so I will say those remarks after we hear from our partners. But without further ado, a champion for equity and justice and fairness who has been on the front lines for decades, my friend and colleague, our Harris County Commissioner for Precinct 1, Commissioner Rodney Ellis.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Briones, and everyone who's here today. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank your staff for doing a great job of putting this event together. Tao Costas is doing a great job. Give her a round of applause. It's a tough job, but she's doing a great job. Jay Malone, who I've worked with for many years. Dana, I'm glad you're here. Jenny, Nikisha, and of course, my colleague, Commissioner Briones. I am just so delighted that you are on Harris County Commissioner's Court. Give her a warm round of applause. As she said, we are so appreciative to the Biden and Harris administration for what they did. And here at Harris County, what we did was use an equity lens on how we would spend this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to invest money in doing something about generational poverty. Now, all of us in government, and I've been in it for a long time, as she said, everybody's interested in the resolution. And I wish we'd save some of those trees, because I'm just amazed that everywhere I've served, people are real quick to vote for a resolution with flowery words. But this is an opportunity to put some rubber on the road and really do something about it. Eviction has long been the leading cause of housing loss in Harris County, even before we had a pandemic. According to the recent research of the Eviction Lab at Princeton University, children are at the most risk of eviction. 40% of the renters represented in eviction filings nationwide are children. And Black children are particularly vulnerable to evictions. Black women renters who have a child living in their home comprise 28.3% of the average annual rate for eviction filings. the highest of any race or gender in the country. Funding legal services like eviction defense is essential. It is an essential investment in housing stability. Since the pandemic started in March of 2020, landlords have filed at least 231,000 evictions in Harris County courts. So far, this year, in 2024, we just started. Over 14,000 eviction cases have been filed in Harris County. Those are just evictions that make it through the court system. We know many residents leave their homes under threat or harassment before even having their day in court. Access to legal services reduces housing instability, and the stable housing that people get really saves lives. A recent study published by the Journal of American Medicine found that in January 20 through August of 2021, the risk of death for renters facing eviction was 2.6 times greater than it is for the general population. We know that many tenants in Harris County have been kicked out of their homes in ways that violate even the few protections that have been given to us under Texas law. One of my greatest regrets during my 26 years in the Texas Senate was not being able to add more protections under the laws of the state of Texas, as many other states around the country have done. We cannot afford to ignore this growing crisis. All $9 million of this funding will allow legal service providers to provide advice and representation to renters facing eviction, ensuring tenants can navigate through a very complex proceeding process dealing with a traumatic moment in their lives. Although this investment won't meet the extraordinary demand for eviction-related legal services, it will prevent homelessness and save some lives. And I would encourage all of our partners on other levels of government to also make the investment. By investing in legal services, affordable housing, Harris County addresses both the root causes and the symptoms of a housing crisis. The new eviction appeals court, spearheaded by our own Commissioner Lesley Briones, is a game changer. It will help reduce the processing time for eviction appeal cases and alleviate the financial and emotional burden associated with prolonged legal proceedings. Thank you, Commissioner Briones, for bringing this idea forward. And thank you to her staff for putting the legwork in to really come up with an idea that garnered so much support from us on Commissioner's Court. And to Judge Thomas, who leads this court, I couldn't be prouder than to have given you an early break to be an intern, and then Representative Sylvester Turner's office. As she said earlier, I didn't really know his story until his investiture proceeding. And you ought to pull that tape up. It was quite emotional. I'd also like to thank the Lone Star Legal Aid Team and Neighborhood Defender Services for participating in the eviction defense program and for helping to design it. And especially, I want to thank the Department of Community Services for their hard work and the critical time that they put into this. This new court, paired with the eviction defense program, will promote equity and enhance the efficiency of housing justice in Harris County. Commissioner, I'm so glad you invited me over to join you for this. You know there's something going on next Tuesday that you and I don't have to worry about as much. But we have some dear friends that I got to tip out and go help. But look, I couldn't be more delighted. I hate that I won't get to hear some of the stories that you're going to hear today. But I appreciate the folks in the media and all of you getting the word out. The greatest fear is that when this federal money is gone, there really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to address a major human crisis. I hope we have the chutzpah on the local level to invest the money if other partners are not able to step up again. So, Commissioner, thank you. I appreciate you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Ellis. Good afternoon. My name is Tao Costas, and I have the honor and privilege to be the Executive Director of Community Services Department. I've been here for just over a year and am joined by amazing leaders who, as you've heard, are fully committed to protecting our most vulnerable citizens in our county. I came from the world of homelessness. My career for 30 years, I worked with many partners to help people move from the streets into jobs and safe, stable housing. And with creative partnerships, creative ideas, creating a homeless court, a mental health court, and now a wonderful eviction court. These are instrumental tools to help us shift the way we are addressing the challenges of our poor citizens. We have become a national model because of our ability to have reduced homelessness by more than 60% since 2011. While other cities, other communities are struggling with homelessness, we cannot get back there. And this commitment to protect people, keep people from experiencing homelessness, from being evicted unnecessarily and unlawfully. This is what's necessary to continue to help our community thrive. Harris County Community Services Department gets to be the arm to connect with our partners and bring the resources to the people who really need it the most. So we are thrilled to be able to have that function and that partnership and the ability to move needles. And that's what we're all here for. So I'm going to go ahead and just pass it on to our partners here who can tell us more about why this is so vital. Thank you.
All right. So my name is Jay Malone. I'm here today representing New Economy for Working Houston, and very excited to share our new report on the eviction crisis in Harris County with y'all. New Economy for Working Houston brings together the power of grassroots organizing and public policy innovation to win a just economy for Gulf Coast working families. Our mission is to strengthen the ability of working Texans to shape their local economies through strategic research, campaign advocacy, policy development, communications, and coalition building between labor and community. So the housing crisis has hit working people in Houston particularly hard over the last 4 years. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, many working families in Harris County lost their jobs, setting off a cascade of misfortune that has far too often led to housing instability and in many cases, evictions and homelessness. But thanks to aggressive intervention from the Biden administration through the American Rescue Plan Act and effective implementation of rental assistance and legal aid programs by Harris County Commissioner's Court, we were able to keep tens of thousands of our neighbors in their homes. During the height of the pandemic, unions, nonprofits, impacted individuals, and government partners came together in the Keep Harris Housed Coalition to work together to connect residents at risk of eviction with rental assistance and legal aid. In 2021, our coalition organized more than 21 events, helping over 7,000 residents connect with the help they needed to stay in their homes. And over the past year, we have worked with our partners at the Texas Gulf Coast AFL-CIO, Texas Housers, the Center for Civic and Public Policy Improvement and Prevention Institute, along with dozens of other organizations and individuals involved in the Keep Harris Housed Coalition, to publish a report, Keeping Harris Housed, an overview of the eviction crisis in Harris County. The report, which we're excited to publish today, describes the eviction crisis impacting Harris County, the ways we've mobilized together with Harris County officials aligned with our values to provide tenants at risk of eviction with support, and the need for further investment in legal aid and other interventions. In our report, we found that eviction filings in Harris County fell by almost 50% during 2020 and 2021, compared with average filings over the last decade. But as protections and rental assistance funds were depleted, evictions began to rise past historic averages. There were a total of 79,626 eviction filings in Harris County in 2022 and a staggering 81,510 filings in 2023. The deck is severely stacked against tenants in our courts right now. Landlords must only provide a 3-day notice to vacate before starting proceedings, and renters can find themselves without a home within weeks of missing a payment. Worse, landlords often engage in intimidation tactics with few consequences. It is illegal to cut off utilities, restrict entry with a padlock, or change door locks and deny a tenant re-entry into their unit, but landlords frequently use these tactics to encourage a tenant to leave their property without a court order or force tenants to go into debt to gain entry into their homes. We thank Harris County Commissioners Court for passing legal aid funding to ensure tenants have access to on-site counsel in our justice peace courts and help to make our process a lot fairer than it is currently. As has been proven over the last 4 years, expanding access to legal assistance improves outcomes for tenants and represents a cost-effective policy intervention for Harris County. Harris County's Housing Legal Services Initiative began to operate in mid-2021. In our report, we found a 38% increase in tenants' legal representation that year. The following year, the number of cases where tenants had legal representation had once again increased by another 43%. In 2023, tenants were represented 4 times more often than before the pandemic, and the $9 million that was invested by Harris County in legal aid services had a huge impact on this fourfold increase. Legal representation helps tenants to navigate longer legal processes when a judgment is not reached during the original hearing. Oftentimes, a judge will reset a case to allow both parties to discuss repayment opportunities, enter negotiations and settlement plans, provide further evidence to the court, and access social services that tenants need, such as SNAP, TANF, or WIC, and give these programs time to activate. These efforts can prolong the amount of time a case is active in the court database and grant tenants time to catch up on back rent. Now, legal aid will not solve the eviction crisis. This is something we all recognize. That requires a change that shares our prosperity with all working families and ensures that everyone has access to quality, affordable housing and good jobs. But everyone deserves a fair shake in our courts, and expanding access to legal representation is the only way that is possible for tenants facing eviction in our courts right now. I'd like to recognize my colleagues who helped to put this report together, Julio Ordonez, Ben Martin, and Taylor Laredo from Texas Housers, Jordan Everett, Jordan Everett from the Prevention Institute, Kate Ranishan from the Center for Civic and Public Policy Improvement, and Sarah Jasmine Montgomery, who worked as the Housing Justice Organizer for New Houston. We are also thankful, again, to Commissioners Briones, Ellis, Garcia, and County Judge Hidalgo for their work to address the eviction crisis. In the last 3 years, they've implemented innovative policies to address all the elements of the crisis, funding new affordable housing, expanding access to good union jobs, and investing in navigators to help families at risk connect with social services. But the crisis is far from over. In fact, evictions and housing instability are still rising in Harris County. We must reaffirm our commitment to do everything we can to keep working families across Harris County in their homes. I will now call my colleague Jenny Roberts from Neighborhood Defender Service.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Jenny Roberts, and I am the supervising attorney for Neighborhood Defender Service Texas, Harris County Eviction Defense. I am pleased to join my colleagues from Lone Star Legal Aid to discuss our work on behalf of people facing eviction in Harris County. I want to first express my appreciation to Harris County for establishing the eviction program in 2023 and continue that good work by expanding it. I hope other counties here in Texas will follow their example. I want to thank our amazing Harris County Eviction Defense Team, which is Minu Walters, our Managing Director of Texas, Sharita McNeil and Brianna Lance, our staff attorneys, Jesus Sines, our client advocate, Gloria Fernandez, our team administrator, Taylor Mason, our TLIP intern, and Christina Ocampo, our fellow. We are all here because we recognize that our country is in the midst of an eviction crisis. Millions of American households every year are threatened with eviction, which contributes to a cycle of poverty that frequently results in homelessness and harms communities, including children. Most people think of a public defender's office as doing criminal defense work, but NDS has long recognized the need for dedicated civil defense services, including eviction defense, as part of a comprehensive public defense program. NDS, established in 1990, is a pioneer of the holistic defense model. That means we look at our clients as whole people and consider all of their circumstances. Our services include not just lawyers, but social workers, client advocates, and investigators. By addressing clients' underlying needs, we can improve case outcomes and save taxpayers money. Our clients come into our office with more than just a pending legal matter. Often they have spent years trying to survive under extreme racial and economic disparities, which has resulted in a lack of quality, affordable housing, reliable and fair employment, adequate health care and education, and family stability, among so many other issues. Today, I want to tell you a bit about who we are helping and how our holistic eviction defense works in Harris County. Our small but mighty team of 5, including 3 attorneys, currently serve 5 of the 16 Harris County JP precincts. And that includes the busiest eviction court in Harris County. Since opening our doors in May of 2023, our dedicated team has provided advice, counsel, full representation to over 2,500 Harris County residents at risk of losing their homes. We understand the importance of serving the needs of the community by attending events, tabling at street fairs, conducting Know Your Rights, including Fresh Start with Harris County Court judges. We want to make sure that our community, our neighbors, know about resources to keep them in their homes. At NDS, our clients get access to a range of services and referrals to assist them. That's what we mean by holistic. Every single person we contact gets legal questions answered and access to resources. I'm proud to say that we return nearly 100% of calls to our helpline, and we talk to 90% of the people who request help. More than half of everyone who has received assistance from us has had their case reviewed by an attorney and received legal advice or representation. In many cases, we direct our callers to community partners who can help them with employment opportunities, financial literacy, utility assistance, job training, education, mental and physical health care, veteran services, and of course, rental assistance. Disturbingly, we found that 20% of our clients are living in substandard conditions: mold, rats, roaches, bed bugs, ceilings caving in, sewage overflow, vermin, snakes, faulty or not working electricity, or inconsistent access to water. In those cases, we help people document those conditions and assist them in reporting to the proper agencies and filing small claims cases over repairs and other costs. We also work with landlords and property managers. We assist in mediation between the landlords, property managers, and tenants to arrive at a resolution that allows both parties to amicably resolve the eviction. After all, housing affects property owners too. Our partnership with Harris County underscores the indispensable role of legal services in shaping the very fabric of community health, safety, and overall well-being. The Commissioner's expansion of funding for eviction services means that people are getting help, and more families and individuals are retaining their homes instead of ending up in shelters or even on the streets. We are grateful to the Commissioners for their investment in the health, safety, and economic security of tenants, landlords, and the wider community of Harris County. Thank you, and thank you, Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. My name's Donna Carney. I'm litigation director at Lone Star Legal Aid. I'm beyond grateful. I don't really have words of gratitude. I'm sorry that Commissioner Ellis is not here for me to publicly thank him as well. I did thank him privately. I also have a tremendous debt of gratitude to Jay Malone, who I see not only as a community advocate, but as a friend, and to Julia and her funky bunch, who I hold so dearly because it is these community organizers who have really drawn out the public and helped us in ways that have only kind of exponentially increased the work that we do. So let me start out with that quick note of thanks. For over 75 years, Lone Star Legal Aid and our predecessors have been serving Harris County and the eastern side of the state of Texas, working tirelessly on behalf of the most vulnerable individuals and families in our community. And for decades, we've been representing tenants facing eviction and other housing matters in state and federal courts. It just so happens that when disaster strikes, Lone Star Legal Aid shows up at the ready. And when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we found ourselves staring down the barrel of the eviction epidemic that has long plagued our community in a way like never before. Early in the COVID pandemic, Congress passed the CARES Act, and I don't really want to get into the weeds on what the protections look like, but I do want to share with you one of the very first incidents that put Harris County on the map with national scrutiny for our high eviction rates. There was research that was conducted by one of our local law schools, South Texas College of Law, that revealed that 24% of eviction judgments were taken illegally. Those 24% of eviction judgments were tenants who had protections under the CARES Act, and there was no one there to protect them. Not themselves, not the courts, and certainly not lawyers. Just to get into the weeds for a moment, those tenants only received a 3-day notice and not a 30-day notice, and that's what the CARES Act provided. The data shows time and time again that tenants without attorneys end up being evicted, even where they had every single right to stay housed. Some people tend to think that providing attorneys for tenants facing eviction is a means of evening out the playing field. We don't quite see it as a playing field. We actually don't see it as playing at all. We have a very tenacious group of attorneys, some of whom are here, paralegals, support staff, who are willing to show up in court and file notices of appearance and fight in front of judges, having just met their clients, and take those cases up on appeal. And we know that but for our litigation efforts, full-blown representation, our clients are one toe away from homelessness. And we also know, because we have read the studies, that the health, financial, social, emotional, and other tolls of homelessness bear a much greater burden on the community than giving those tenants an attorney to represent them in court, to keep them stably housed. There's also significant data to show that eviction filing rates in Harris County are on the rise, and they're surpassing pre-pandemic rates, and we've heard about that. There's no shortage of data to support that. There's no indication whatsoever that those eviction filings will be coming down anytime soon. Back in January 2022, Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court, Nathan Hecht, was quoted in the New York Times in an op-ed. It was kind of curious that he would be in the New York Times, but he was quoted in an op-ed piece titled, quote, "It should take more than 10 minutes to evict someone." And yet, in February 2023, our very own Houston Chronicle reported that eviction cases are typically heard in 90 seconds. So you might ask yourself, what does providing lawyers have to do with this? And would providing lawyers to tenants actually slow down that process or maybe even bring it to a halt? Shortly this afternoon, you're going to hear from one of our clients, Miss Oliver, and while her story is very compelling for herself and her family, her 3 teenage daughters and her toddler, what is so striking to me as the attorney who started Boots on the Ground, an eviction right to counsel unit at Lone Star Legal Aid 4 years ago, the first of its kind in the state of Texas, truly unprecedented, is that when her case was dismissed because our lawyer fought for her, every other case by that landlord on that day's docket, even those tenants who were not represented, their cases were dismissed too. And that is the multiplier effect of having an attorney for tenants. It not only supported her rights for Miss Oliver and her children, but also the rights of the other tenants in her building. And let's be honest, for the judges or the clerks or the county who complain that the dockets are busting, all of those other cases were removed from the docket instantly, thereby reducing the burden. We call that judicial economy. To be clear, there has been a paradigm shift. Our lawyers are standing on the rights of our clients, helping them avoid eviction, and there's been an effort to educate the community at large. The end result is housing stabilization. On August 9th, 2023, we bore witness to just that. We prevented at Lone Star Legal Aid over 100 tenants in one day from the threat of eviction. And that was because of the trial of only one case in court. And I'm grateful to the people from Housers who were on the ready to come testify to what they had seen in the apartment complexes in Pasadena, Cabo San Lucas, and the Redford. We bring forth efficiency and fairness in the courts, evening out that playing field, so to speak, for those who are teetering on the edge of homelessness, and we do call that judicial economy. We also do provide a holistic system where on the fly we do provide those intakes. We meet and vet our clients. We've become extremely efficient at a process that otherwise would take too long. We develop a meaningful relationship so that we can provide representation on the spot. And later, when we have time, we come back. We make sure that our clients have access to food stamps. If they're disabled, if they need other services, if they're veterans, if they need any sort of other service that we can provide, we farm that out to other units within Lone Star Legal Aid. Again, something we've been doing for over 70 years. Our approach is intersectional, incorporating holistic services, acknowledging that multifaceted nature of poverty is unfortunately inevitable. We want to extend, and I say this not only on my own behalf, but on behalf of an entire team of truly fearless advocates at Lone Star Legal Aid, our heartfelt thanks to the commissioners, to Judge Hidalgo, and to the community for supporting our work. Should there be additional funding, I assure you that we are more than happy to continue our charge. Thanks again, and I'd like to turn it over now to our client, Nikisha Oliver.
Hi, everyone. I'm here. My name is Nikisha Oliver. And as everyone has stated before, I'm facing these situations. I remember going to court, and I've been through this process before, and I felt defeated. I wasn't going to be heard out. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know my rights. And the ladies for Lone Star were to my right, the judges to the front. So I said, well, let me go check this out and see if there's anybody here to just give me some assistance or a word to just, not lose it all right now today. So like they said, we got the first cases dismissed along with the neighbors in my building. We also went for a second time that they took me to court, and we got that judgment ruled in my favor. So I won. It's not against me. I can move forward. But like I say, I'm still facing these situations. I'm under the barrel right now. I have limited resources. I have a 2-year-old. I have 3 teenage daughters. I have one just graduate. We're trying to get her out to college. I don't know how to balance these things without the help of my community. So I'm asking you guys, I do have a GoFundMe, a new beginning. We're looking to move. So anything is plenty. And I'm always trying to make my means meet so I can eat. But thank you guys. And I'm forever grateful to everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver, for sharing your story and your experience. And we're all in this room. But the multiplier effect is something we keep bringing up. We can have the passion and persistence and commitment. But what it's really going to take is continued leadership at the federal, state, county, and city level, in our courts, in our legislature, in our schools, in our places of worship, in our nonprofit community. This is an all hands on deck moment. And especially this year in 2024, none of this would have been possible but for the funding that came from the Biden administration and them sending the funding directly to Harris County. So for that, I'm grateful. And I hope that we can keep working at the state level, because all of us in here who have read the property code, I can't wait to the day I get to help rewrite it. And I'm sure all of you have ideas, because as a judge, I'm like, okay, I'm not in the legislature, I'm a judge, but I'm happy now that I'm outside of the courtroom and can be an advocate again for the justice that all of our families deserve. And when we see the numbers continuing to rise, people can't keep brushing it away. Oh, it's the pandemic. No, it continues to rise. And throwing these millions of dollars is a step in the right direction, but it's not enough. And so this multiplier effect will need to continue. I know, thank you so much to the Spanish language media. I know we have Telemundo here. And so again, in this spirit of making sure that we're always bringing a most inclusive approach, I have some brief remarks in Spanish. Ahora diré unas palabras en español. Buenas tardes, soy Lesley Briones y soy muy agradecida de ser su comisionada del Condado Harris, Recinto 4. Y quiero dar las gracias a todos ustedes por estar aquí con nosotros, al comisionado Rodney Ellis del Condado Harris, Recinto 1, a Tau Costes, nuestra directora ejecutiva del Departamento de Servicios Comunitarios del Condado Harris, a Jay Malone, the New Economy for Working Houston, Donna Carney, the Lone Star Legal Aid, Jenny Roberts, the Neighborhood Defender Services, y a la señora Oliver por compartir su historia, y al presidente Biden para todos los fondos de ARPA entregados. Estamos aquí hoy para celebrar la expansión del programa de asistencia legal contra desalojos, pasando a 16 tribunales de justicia de paz entre todo el condado de Harris. Como abogada y ex jueza, creo que es justo que los residentes del condado tengan ayuda legal. También soy mamá de 3 hijas y antes fui maestra. Y yo recuerdo mis estudiantes llegando a escuela y casi no estaban despiertos porque no tenían una casa estable todas las noches. Estaban yendo a una tía, al otro, a un amigo, a una casa porque no tenían un hogar estable. Y es sumamente importante porque casi 40 de las personas que están en estos procesos son niños, los niños en nuestra comunidad. Y sabemos también que menos de 2% de los inquilinos de nuestro condado tienen abogados y 98% no tienen. Y los casos han subido mucho en los últimos 3 años. Y cerca de 30% de los casos son en mi recinto número 4. Y nuestro corte de comisionados del condado aprobamos $9 millones de fondos ARPA en asistencia legal. Y también estamos aquí con nuestros socios, Lone Star Legal Aid y Neighborhood Defender Service. Y ellos han asistido a más de 7,000 personas, superando su meta de 2,000. Eso es increíble, pero también sabemos que hay muchas más personas que necesitan ayuda. Y además de la ayuda legal, también tomamos un enfoque integral de justicia para todos. Abrimos el puesto de juez asociado a la Corte Civil para responder a las apelaciones en casos de desalojos. Aumentamos los servicios legales para inmigrantes sobrevivientes de violencia para ayudarles a lograr la justicia que merecen. Estamos también creando una oficina de acceso al idioma gracias a más de $500,000 de Houston Endowment. Y también aquí en el condado dimos $3.3 millones en asistencia de emergencia para alquileres a familias desalocadas. Y hemos invertido decenas de millones de dólares en viviendas económicas. Además, aprobamos fondos federales para ayudar a familias de bajos recursos. Y desde 2022, ARPA ha invertido $14.5 millones en pasantías, desarrollo de fuerza laboral y pequeñas empresas. Estamos invirtiendo mucho dinero y mucha energía, pero la verdad, este es un problema de toda nuestra comunidad. Estos son nuestros vecinos, son nuestros familiares, los estudiantes que están en clase con nuestros hijos. Esta es una epidemia que todos tenemos una responsabilidad. Así que de nuevo, quiero dar gracias a todos los asociados que están aquí, todos ustedes que están luchando por la justicia aquí en el Condado Jerez. De nuevo, gracias al presidente Biden por este dinero que nos han dado. Y por favor, si están escuchando y quieren más información de estos servicios legales, por favor, visite la web del Departamento de Servicios Comunitarios del Condado Jerez. Y gracias de nuevo. Estamos en esto juntos y todos tenemos que seguir la lucha para que el Condado Jerez sea el condado más justo en los Estados Unidos. Así que muchas gracias y ahora vamos a abrir esta temporada juntos para preguntas. Now, thank you for everyone who's here. Thank you for your partnership and being on the front lines to make sure Harris County is the most just place in the United States of America. We have a ways to go, but I know that fighting together and working together, we will keep driving progress.